Tommy Jaggi of FanSided here with NFL expert Marcus Mosher. We're going to talk, Marcus, about something I didn't know we'd be talking about right now. A potential Myles Garrett trade. Yes, that Myles Garrett, the best defensive player in the NFL. Could he actually be on the move? And we saw something unusual happen, Marcus, where the Cleveland Browns mutually decided to push Garrett's money back to August, I believe. And so can you tell us about what just happened contractually between the Browns and Garrett and what this could spell for his future?
Basically, without getting into the minutia of the contract stuff, is Garrett had a $26 million roster bonus that was fully guaranteed that was due to him on Wednesday. And Cleveland and Garrett together decided to push that date back until I think it's 7 days before the first game of the NFL season. Now, this doesn't benefit Garrett in any way because it's his money. It's going to be coming to him at some point, and most players want to get the money now so you can spend it, right? But what it does do is it opens up this window to make him more tradable for the rest of the summer. And if Garrett's on this Browns team after let's say September 1st, when the bonus comes in, he's probably going to spend the entire season in Cleveland. But now we have this little 6-month window where he has a very tradable contract. He also has a no trade clause, which complicates things a little bit. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that the Browns are going to trade Garrett, but it does give them some flexibility here to move him if they get the right offer.
Yeah, and it was just an offseason ago where Garrett threatened to leave the team, say his final goodbye, say it's been real, and only to go and get a massive contract extension. Now, we'll see what happens here, Marcus, but you talked about how tradable this contract is for a team on the receiving end. But because it's such a good deal and because the Browns are already going to have to eat a bunch of dead money with this potential trade that could be in the works this offseason still, what would that mean for Cleveland? Like, what type of resources would you have to get in return? We saw Micah Parsons get traded for 2 first-round picks and 3-time Pro Bowler defensive tackle Kenny Clark last offseason. What would it take to get Garrett, especially if you're getting him at such a great deal?
So first of all, it's $41 million of dead money if Cleveland were to trade him, which is a lot, but it's not like the egregious amounts that we saw, like the Cardinals take on with Tua, or the Dolphins took on with Tua, the Cardinals took on with Kyler Murray. And if they wait to trade him until June 2nd or later, it would only be $21 million this year, which is, again, very attainable. The reason why this is so intriguing is that the cap hits for the team that would acquire Myles Garrett for the next 3 years would be $9 million, $17 million, and $21 million, which makes this one of the most tradable contracts in the NFL because just about every team in the league can stomach $40 million over 3 years for Myles Garrett, right? So because it's such a tradable contract, Cleveland's going to be asking for the moon, and they should. This is a 30-year-old pass rusher coming off the greatest season we've ever seen from a defensive end. He had 24 sacks last year, 25 sacks. He had a pass rush win rate of 25, which was the highest of his career. He is the best defensive player in the league. And Tommy, the other part of it is we're seeing more teams be open to going all in, and they know their windows, and they're willing to trade first-round picks way into the future to give themselves the best opportunity to try to win now. I think you're looking at 3 first-round picks plus X in a trade for Myles Garrett.
Yeah, 23 sacks, new NFL record last year, 33 tackles for loss, both led the league in 2025. This is wild to even have this into consideration, Marcus, but you think about it from a logical standpoint, boy, this could make sense for Cleveland due to the fact that they don't have a quarterback. They can't seem to get out of the ditch in terms of getting the record back on track. They had those couple nice years back when Kevin Stefanski was the head coach early in his tenure. It's been pretty disastrous these past few years, though. Getting that much draft capital can help turn your team around. And if we're being honest right now, the Browns probably are not going to be a competitive franchise again throughout the rest of the prime that we're getting with Myles Garrett. So it would make sense to get a king's ransom, to get 3 first-round picks and maybe more in return for him. But what organizations out there, Marcus, does it make sense to execute that trade, to give up that much capital? It's got to be a team in the Super Bowl window. And there are a few that come to mind. Can you throw a few teams out there who would be willing to
Well,
trade for
I mean, I
Garrett?
think any team that is seriously thinking that they can contend for a Super Bowl this year should be interested because he is a franchise changing defender. Even in some of those years where Cleveland had, I mean, the talent was barren on defense. They were a good unit because Myles Garrett is that good. And the other part of this is I think it's going to turn into an arms race. If you are let's use the Eagles and the Cowboys, right? Two teams that have sniffed around some edge rushers this year. If you're the Cowboys, you can't let him go to the Eagles, right? Because now the Eagles have a huge advantage. And if you're the Eagles, I don't know if you can let him go to the Cowboys or go to the Rams, right?
Yeah.
Because if the Rams get him, I don't see any way that Eagles team is going to be able to come, go to LA and beat the Rams. So that's why I think the price is going to be high. But I think you're going to see a lot of teams who think they're maybe one piece away go out and make this move. And Tommy, I wouldn't even be surprised if you see some other teams that maybe we aren't thinking of. Like, I'll give you an example: the Patriots, right? The
Okay.
Patriots have a quarterback on a rookie contract. This is kind of the time to strike. Don't worry about those first round picks in 2027, 2028. We'll keep the day three picks. We'll build our roster that way. If you add Myles Garrett to that Patriots defense, they're the clear cut favorite in the AFC, and they're probably walking to the AFC championship game. I think you're going to see at least 10 to 12 teams put in a serious offer for Myles Garrett, assuming Cleveland does want to trade him, and we'll see.
Yeah, and you outlined the teams that I thought of: Dallas, Philadelphia, the LA Rams, who were so close. I mean, we both decided that whoever was winning that NFC championship last year was ultimately probably going to win the Super Bowl. They came that close to it. A move like that would feel like it would certainly put them over the top, at least to be right in that position again next year. And so, Marcus, the question is, and I think you kind of already answered a little bit, does this get into a bidding war for Garrett's services? Or do you think that we might have to go the other way a little bit and the Browns maybe come down a little bit on the price? What I'm again, I want to outline this really quick. 30 years old. Myles Garrett is superhuman, right? He's not like other edges out there. He's not like TJ Watt. He's not like Khalil Mack. He's better than those guys. But we saw these guys slow down dramatically once they reached their 30s. Is anybody going to be scared away enough to say, I don't know if I'd be willing to give up that much, because maybe you only have 2 good years left of Garrett, great years left of Garrett, and then it just becomes good after that. And for the price, it's a lot to give up. Do you see Garrett slowing down anytime soon? And do you think that teams are going to come down on the asking price?
I mean, I don't see him slowing down for the fact that he's actually getting better as he's getting older. Now, he's not going to have 23 sacks next year. Like, it's not going to happen, right? But is he going to get 17, 18 again? Yeah, probably. Is he going to be the leaders in pressures and pass rush win rate? Yeah, probably. And it's partly because these other guys that you mentioned, like Micah, TJ Watt, even someone like Von Miller, I mean, they're maybe 250 pounds, maybe. Myles Garrett, I bet you now is closer to 280, 285 pounds. And he wins with speed and athleticism, but he can also win with strength and length and in his technique. That's why he's the best defensive player in the league. And generally, Tommy, these guys that are like the pantheon of the Hall of Fame, like when we're talking about like the GOATs at their positions, they usually can perform really well into their 30s. And take Tom Brady, right? Played into the 40s. Jerry Rice was the best receiver in the league until he was like 37, 38 years old, and still went on to play 4 or 5 more years in the NFL. I even look at someone like Derrick Henry right now with the Ravens, right? He's in his 30s playing just as well as he's ever played before. There does seem like when you get to this level of athlete, they have just the ability to extend their careers a little bit. That's where I'm landing with Myles Garrett.
Yeah, and Garrett's frame, strength, play style, all of that should lend to a really long career, a la Julius Peppers. Like, you can play forever at that point, unless you have some catastrophic injury, which we obviously don't wish upon him. Marcus, what would be so just bittersweet, I think, for Cowboys fans, if it came back around full circle? They took so much flack for trading Micah Parsons away. If you can turn Parsons into Myles Garrett, I think that would mend all wounds.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you're also paying him pennies on the dollar compared to what you were going to pay Micah. And that was really the big issue that the Cowboys had, is they felt like tying up $47 million a year in one defensive player was just too much. But if it's $12 million a year, $15 million a year for the best defensive player in the year, that's totally different. And you're willing to give up more for that player. And I think that's what makes this for teams like the Cowboys and the Rams and the Eagles that are in these clear windows, right? It's the next 2 years. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Adding a guy like this could make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, an absolute bargain contract, and it's why the asking price is going to be so high. And if a trade ultimately happens here, Marcus, we can expect it to be the most draft capital ever handed out for a defensive player.
Yeah, the most honestly, it might be the most we've ever seen. Period. Like we just have not seen 3 first-round picks get traded for a single veteran very often. Really quick on the Cleveland side, because we just touched on it. It doesn't sound like Cleveland is interested in grabbing, let's say, 2 first-round picks from this year. I think that's why a lot of people have mentioned Dallas. And they're one of these teams that proposed that you can trade first-round picks from 5 years out. And I wonder if the thought process is, let's stagger some of the compensation. Maybe we get a first rounder in 2027, which is an awesome draft. Maybe we get one in 2029 and then 2030. That way we can have assets throughout the rest of the decade to build this team. I don't think it's the worst strategy in the world. And if you can get a first round pick from, let's say, the Cowboys in 2029, when Dak Prescott's older, Myles Garrett's older, CeeDee Lamb's older, maybe that ends up turning into a top 5 pick. And that's how someone like Cleveland wins this trade.
I haven't connected the dots before that, Marcus, but do you think that there's a chance the Browns propose that rule change because they intend to trade Myles Garrett?
I don't know if it's with the intention of trading Myles Garrett, but I do think it just opens them up to more flexibility. And here's the other part of it. We've had these awesome quarterbacks that maybe are stuck in bad situations, but nobody wants to trade them for just 2 or 3 first-round picks. But what if it's 4? Or what if it's first-round picks 3, 4, 5 years down the road? I do think it makes it more interesting and intriguing when you're putting together these trade packages. But no, I don't think it's just because of the Myles Garrett thing.
Some absolutely wild trade fodder on today's show, and we'll see if anything happens here. But man, you can bet that the NFL world would just be taken by storm if the greatest defensive player of this generation ended up finding a new home. All right, Marcus, let's shift gears here. We're going to talk about some of the pro days here, but before we do that, you are tuned into Stacking the Box, where NFL fans come to talk, celebrate, and debate. For more coverage, hit up FanSided.com, powered by the passionate fans at FanSided. Check out all the great work that we're doing over there. All right, let's talk about the pro days that we just saw recently in the past few days here, Marcus. Miami held their pro day. Ohio State, obviously massive pro day. We're talking about so many high caliber prospects coming out of the Ohio State football program, not unlike other years, but just so many good, talented players. And one thing that is kind of going viral here just over the past day is the side-by-side of Reuben Bain and Arvell Reese, 2 guys who are pegged as pass rushers at the next level. Reese, there's a little bit more of a projection there because he's more of an off-ball linebacker. They think that he can kind of make that transformation. Everybody wants to find the next Micah Parsons that we just talked about. And some believe that maybe he can be in that mold where he kind of makes that transition here, Marcus. But what we noticed in the side-by-sides, when these guys are going through drills, Bain just looks so much more bendy and fluid, and Reese does not look very natural doing that. Are we talking about maybe a way bigger projection here for Reese than we thought? And which of these guys do you think is going to be the better pass rusher in the NFL?
So I think we got to be careful not overreacting too much to pro day drills, because a lot of what happens at these pro day drills just isn't translatable to what happens on the football field. Now, having said all that, I love Reuben Bain. I love his ability to bend. I think he's going to be a good pass rusher in the NFL. But I don't think you can go and look at what Arvell Reese did and what Bain did and necessarily compare it, because they're 2 different players and they win in 2 completely different ways. Bain has to be bendy because he doesn't have long arms.
Yeah.
He's not overly big. So that's the way that he's got to win as a pass rusher. Where I think Arvell Reese, he can do a lot of other things on the football field. And I think his speed to power is better coming downhill, where I think Bain is a little bit better off the line of scrimmage. There is some more projection with Reese, but if you're changing your opinion based on a couple of bag drills at a pro day, I think that's where maybe I question that a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we can talk about maybe the significant gap between the two in terms of athletic traits, where Arvell Reese ran the 4.46, checks that box with flying colors, not going to have an issue flying off the edge, or like you said, converting speed to power. Whereas Bain, there's more question marks. He didn't test at the combine, chose not to do athletic testing at his pro day. But man, the guy is just smooth and fluid. And when you put on the Miami tape, it doesn't matter what game you're putting on, he can, the combination of bend and power is exceptionally rare. And so even with those 30 and 7/8-inch arms, he knows how to take the fastest route to the quarterback, and it works. I think that's really translatable to the NFL, even without having the ideal edge rusher frame. These guys are just so different, and the projections are different for both of them, and for so many different reasons. I feel really good about Bain. Like I just the more I watch the two, the more I feel comfortable about Bain, and I feel like I have maybe more questions about Reese. I just got done watching Reese against Indiana, and I mean, I'd be quite frank, he was hardly noticeable in that game. I think he ended up with 3 pressures. They all came 4 or 5 seconds into the play when Fernando Mendoza rolled out of the pocket and was trying to look to extend the play. There was nothing that came organically, and I just don't know exactly what his fit is in the NFL.
Well, let me try to think how I want to phrase this. Bain, I feel like the projection is easier, right? Because what he's doing in college is what he's going to do in the NFL. And that's going to be probably as a left defensive end in a 4-3. Now, there are going to be teams that don't view him that way. They don't think that he's got the length. So maybe he's got to kick inside. But I think for the most part, you turn on that Miami tape and you see what you're going to get, right? Now, I don't know if he's got the athleticism of some of the top ranked edge rushers in the league. That's what you really need to be the guys that are getting double digit sacks every single year. But I do feel like the floor is high. Whereas with Reese, there is a little bit more of projection. But the reason why I think he's going to go significantly higher is number one, he's a better athlete. Number two, he can play multiple positions. And number three, I just think there's a lot more power to his game as a run defender. And yeah, you're probably going to have to scheme a little bit of it up. You're going to have to wait for him to develop because he's only been playing on the edge 1 year of his career. But I do think Reese is going to go higher, and I think he should go significantly higher than Bain.
All right. From the highs, the heartbreaks, every headline. This is Stacking the Box, where NFL fans come to talk and debate, powered by FanSided and the voices at fansided.com. Marcus, let's talk about Caleb Downs now, another highly touted prospect. I mean, this guy was remarkable at Ohio State over the last 3 years, just the epitome of consistency, always around the football. But maybe, just maybe, Marcus, NFL executives might not all share the same opinion on Caleb Downs. And could they potentially have a guy from the MAC ranked higher than him? Like, what are we talking about here? Give us an update on what's the latest buzz around Caleb Downs.
Yeah, so Daniel Jeremiah was on a local radio station in Dallas talking about Caleb Downs' stock, and he said basically something of the effect that he would be more surprised if Downs went picks 1 through 9 than 10 to 20. He thinks 10 to 20 is really his range. And he said that he knows of multiple teams that have Emmanuel McNeil-Warren and Dylan Thieneman ahead of Caleb Downs. And it sounds crazy, right? I get it. Downs has been somebody who's been hyped throughout this entire process, but there's not a lot of teams that are going to be thrilled about taking a sub 6 foot safety who's 205 pounds, who didn't test at the combine, didn't test at the pro day. Maybe they've got some concerns about his knee. The stats are good. Like, I'm not putting that down, but 10 career pass deflections, 1.5 career sacks, 6 career interceptions. It's fine production, but it's not elite production. It's not like the production that Sean Taylor or Ed Reed had coming out of school. It's more in line of what Malachi Starks had at Georgia, his 3 years there, where it was, again, good production. And I could see teams looking at Dylan Thieneman's athleticism and being like, let's just take the better athlete. And I can see teams looking at Emmanuel McNeil-Warren and looking at the production and the size difference and being like, hey, let me take the 6'3.5" safety that runs in the low 4.5s. That's a way bigger hitter. I'll gamble on that, especially after what we saw last year with Nick Emanwari and Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore.
Yeah, I can understand it from a traits perspective, but man, this guy was talked about so high. I mean, yeah, he's going to finish, Marcus, on the consensus board as one of the top prospects in the class. And so if one or even two safeties were to go ahead of him, I think that would just be a bizarre choice overall. He's got the pedigree. He's good every season. I think there's a lot less risk involved, even when you factor in the ACL or in the knee injury that has kind of been flagged and reverse flagged. And he claims that there's no issue with it. My medicals are clean. And so I guess we don't know the whole scope of things there. But I like Downs, and I feel like, I mean, if you're already targeting a position that's not deemed one of the top 5 or 6 most valuable positions in football, just take the guy I feel like that is good.
I mean, that's obviously part of it. The other part of it, these teams that love traits. I mean, he's got 10 percentile arm length. He's got a 13th percentile wingspan. He's 28th percentile height. Again, he didn't run in the 40. A lot of people think he's in the 4.5. So are you comfortable taking a below average athlete or average athlete at a position that doesn't matter as much as others inside the top 10? I don't know. Historically, the answer is no. We'll see.
Yeah. We will see. Bob Sanders, Troy Polamalu, another couple of safeties that had the short arms and the compact frame like Caleb Downs. We are a month and counting to the NFL draft. Make sure you stick with us. This show goes up every Tuesday and Thursday evening. It goes live on YouTube. Be sure to check it out. You can follow Marcus's work on X at Marcus_Mosher. Follow my work on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Stack in the Box podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can check out my written work on stillcurtain.com, Marcus's written work on FanSided.com, in the FanSided NFL Network. Be sure to check out FanSided.com. And thanks again for listening to Stack in the Box.